Yo! Good evening all and welcome to Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. And I'm Satish Sabapathy, the active sergeant at Hans today. And I would like to warmly welcome our contest chair, Rhonda Whittaker.
Thank you, Satish, for that lovely welcome. Good evening, honored guests, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. Welcome to our spring contest. Our first contest is table topics. Earlier, the contestants drew lots to determine their speaking order. The order of the contestants will be Stephanie Chambers, number 1, John Louros, number 2, Stephen Harper, number 3, Scott Terry, number 4, Rahul Vats, number 5, and Tom Trainer, number 6. I'll repeat their names in a moment. For a review of the rules of the Table Topics contest, please welcome Chief Judge Jean Symington Craig.
Madam Contest Chair, most welcome guests, honored dignitaries, and fellow Toastmasters. As Chief Judge of this contest, I confirm we have equal judging representation throughout the club for this contest. The judges, timers, and ballot counters have been briefed and are fully aware of their responsibilities. In addition, the contestants and the contest sergeant-at-arms have met for a briefing regarding the rules and procedures of this contest. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. I ask the Chief Timer to please review the timing procedure for the contestants and observers and have a final check of the timing lights.
Madam Contest Chair, timing will begin with the contestant's first definite verbal or non-verbal communication with the audience. This will usually be the first word uttered by the contestant, but will include any other communication such as sound effects, a stage act by another person, etc. Speech lights is 2 minutes. Speech length is 2 minutes. A contestant will be disqualified for speaking less than 1 minute or more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The green light will be turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light will be turned on at 1 minute and 30 seconds. And the red light will be turned on at 2 minutes and remain on until the speech ends. Any contestant is disqualified whose presentation time is less than the minimum time or more than the maximum time just noted. No signal shall be given to indicate that a presentation has gone into overtime. In the event of a technical failure of the lights, a contestant is allowed 30 seconds extra overtime before being disqualified. We also have these backup green, yellow, and red cards in case the timing lights fail. Thank you.
As Chief Judge, I remind all in this room, if it is necessary to leave, do so only during the 1-minute judging periods. The Sergeant-at-Arms will allow re-entry during a subsequent 1-minute period. Additionally, there is to be silence during that 1 minute. Please do not disturb the judges' deliberations and marking of their ballots. If anyone has electronic equipment, does anyone have electronic equipment in this room, in your life? All right. Such as pagers or cell phones, please deactivate them now, turn them off. There should be no disturbances during the contest. There should be no pictures taken during the contest. Pictures may be taken during the interview session immediately following the contest. Protests regarding originality or eligibility are limited to the judges and contestants and shall be made to the contest chair or to me as Chief Judge prior to the announcement of the winners. For the table topics contests, As we begin, all contestants will be escorted from the room by the Sergeant at Arms. Then, in the order in which the contest chair announced, number 1, number 2, etc. will come in individually. Number 1 will come in and will be given the table topics question. Every contestant will get the same question. Contestant number 1 will give their performance and then is welcome to sit in the audience while the judges are deliberating for 1 minute. And then meanwhile, the Sergeant at Arms will be bringing in the next contestant, who will then hear the same question. Are there any questions on how this is going to work? Stephen?
Is the speaker disqualified if he goes over 2 minutes or if he goes over 2.5 minutes?
Over 2 minutes and 30 seconds is the absolute drop dead.
Okay.
I mean, not that you're actually dead, but
Thank you for that
you
clarification.
will be disqualified.
I needed to know that.
Yes, just like normal.
Yes.
Our normal club
You don't doubt
club procedures. Any other questions? Madam Contest Chair, we are in order. Let the contest begin.
Thank you, Chief Judge. Thank you, Jean Symington Craig. That was wonderful. Now, we begin with table topics. I would like to ask Satish. Let me tell you this before you go out of the room. I will read the question twice as the contestant reads along. After the card is handed back to me and I go to my chair, the contestant may begin answering the question. Any questions? Let the contest begin. Sergeant at Arms Satish, please escort the table topic speakers to the sequester room. Contestant number 1, please come and stand near the front. Contestant number 1, Stephanie Chambers. Stephanie Chambers, contestant number 1. Welcome. I'm going to give you a copy so you can look at it as I read it to you. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You are allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why? Read it again. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 things with you. What do you take and why?
Hello Toastmasters, honoured guests, viewers at home. Mars! I must admit, it's not a place I've really thought about going to. It hasn't been on my destination list. But if I had to go, the 3 things I would take. First off, I would take my husband. It's our wedding anniversary today. So it's a special time to think of him. And I think he'd be very upset if I said I wasn't taking him. But no, seriously, I really would want my husband along because he's very special to me and I'd feel totally alone if he wasn't there. So that's the first thing I would take. The second thing I would take is the Bhagavad Gita with Maharishi's comments. because at times when things come up, I find it's useful to have that to read. Like when my father passed, it gave me some emotional strength to cope with that and some wisdom. So I would take that definitely, because you never know what's going to come up in life, even if you're on Mars. And the third thing I would take, I think, would be a practical thing, in that I want to make sure that wherever I'm going I have what I need, meaning air, food, water, all those basic sort of things. And I haven't been told exactly that they're going to be there, so I would take a kind of total device that does all that, takes care of my physical needs. And I've already covered my emotional needs by having my husband there, my mental needs by having the Gita, and of course the fact I know how to meditate, so that helps. And as long as I have my physical needs taken care of, I think I could survive. All I really need then is to work out what's fun to do on Mars. Thank you.
For 1 minute of silence, please. John Loros. John Loros, contestant number 2. There's something for you to read. I will read this twice for your benefit. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 personal items. What do you take and why? You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You are allowed to take up to 3 personal items. What do you take and why?
Golden speakers, honored guests, and viewers at home. When I was young, I read a lot of science fiction, and I remember one of my favorite authors was Edgar Rice Burroughs, and he wrote a Martian series. And when I read this question, that immediately came to mind. He had a character, John Carter. You may know they just had a movie, John Carter of Mars. So he was from Earth, and the way he got to Mars was through some mystical transference, looking at a star. He didn't have a chance to take anything with him. So when he got to Mars, basically he woke up on the desert, on Barsoom, which is what Edgar Rice Burroughs called Mars, naked. He had nothing. However, if I imagine myself there, what would I want? I think what I would want would be a book. I think I'd like to take a book that would help me to live in a foreign country with nothing. And what I remember, a nice book that would be Jules Verne's Mysterious Island. In that book, they describe how they raise animals, they make weapons, they grow gardens, they mix elements for chemicals. It's a very interesting book. So I think I need a book. I would also need a weapon. You don't know what you're going into, so you would need some kind of a weapon. Since I don't know what's going on Mars, John Carter of Mars had a sword, but since I'm not really good with a sword, I take a pocket knife. I think with a pocket knife you could pretty much get by doing anything you wanted to do. And also the third personal item I think I would take would be my wife Jane. She's great for a company, and she's great to talk to, very supportive. So the 3 items I would take is my wife Jane, a pocket knife, and the book Mysterious Island. Thank you very much.
May we have 1 minute of silence, please? Judges, please mark your ballots. Thank you. Next contestant, number 3, Stephen Harper. I will read this advice for you. Steve, you're leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why? I'll read it one more time. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take 3 personal things. What do you take and why?
Toastmasters, what would you take if you were going to Mars? Mars, a place that has never seen the footstep of man before. You would be adventurous. You would be wanting to explore this vast, unexplored planet. What would it be like? Mountains, rivers, lakes, strange animals, flora, fauna. The light would be different, so much closer to the sun. What time would the sun rise? Would we see other planets from there? How thick is the atmosphere? None of these things are known. So what would you take? Well, possibly you would take some form of visual recording device, such as what is recording this meeting and this contest, so that you could capture it on film, so that you could share that with your friends, neighbors, with society, back on Earth. The other thing that you might take would be some kind of communication device, a laptop, a computer, so that you could write about it and send this information back home. But I would also take camping gear, because you don't know what you're going to find out there. And you'll probably want to get out and explore. What I found in exploring this planet is that the really beautiful places are places that there are no roads. There are no airports. There are no public transportation or even private transportation. The only way to get there is on foot. And usually you need a compass to be sure you know where you're going, or some other device like a GPS. And you'll need to be able to deal with whatever weather may occur so that you are comfortable and safe. So these are the things that I would take to Mars, but you might have a completely different reason for going there. So I invite you to ask yourselves, what would I take if I were going to Mars for a year? Thank you.
Judges, please mark your ballot. Scott Terry. Scott Terry. Please give it back to me when we're done talking here. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why? I'll read it one more time. You're leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. What do you take and why? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Toastmaster, honored guest, and Toastmasters, and all viewers at home. I'm going to Mars. It's a beautiful, beautiful, amazing place. And there's only 3 things I could take with me. The first thing I take, of course, is my lovely wife, because she doesn't get to stay here on Earth by herself. No, no, no. She gets to come to abandoned Mars and be troubled in the universe and surrounded by, you know, those little Martians with their huge heads. I don't know if you guys all saw that Mars Attacks. You know, they got these huge heads and these beady eyes, and they go, wah, 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 wah. You know, we saw them. I, of course, take to Mars the Gita, because I need to reflect upon myself and the possibility and to meditate on who I can be in an empty wilderness of dust, redness, and pain. And, of course, I take my unfinished dissertation, which is only 20 years in the making. But I still have to finish it, so of course I take myself. The moral of the story is that when you go to Mars, when you go anywhere, who do you take? You take yourself. We take with us what's precious, what's important for us. And what's really important for you, Dan, is what? It's the sense of possibility. And that's what Mars really represents to us, Seth. Is that sense of possibility, that sense of hope, that sense of out of nothingness, we can create true meaning, true love, true light. And that's what I'll remind my wife of when she's sitting there going, why did you bring me to Mars? So thank you.
Judges, please mark your ballots. Mr. Timer, may we have 1 minute of silence, please? Contestant number 5, Rahul Vats. This question applies to you. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why? I'll repeat the question. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You're allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why?
My dear fellow Toastmasters, honored guests and viewers at home, my name is Rahul Vats. I came here today to tell you that I'm leaving for Mars. Believe me, most of you will be very happy. See, there are people right there laughing. I'm leaving, and I'm deciding the 3 things that I have to take, and why should I take them with me to Mars. I always thought that living on Mars would be a fun thing if I had to do it all by myself. But somebody over here who doesn't like me put a condition that I have to take 3 things with me. Thinking of that, one of them had to be my wife. The very first thing has to be my wife. Because as it's said in one of the very, very funny comic Bollywood song, there's no life without wife. So my wife has to be there. First thing, first person. Besides my wife, who would I take to Mars? Who or what? See, I'm a computer programmer. I can't live without computer. So I'll take my computer with me to Mars. But that adds a question. What would I do with computers on Mars without electricity and internet? So now this is a very hard choice for the 3rd one. Can't you give me one more thing, damn it? Yeah. third and the final thing for me, in order to have that computer working at least, will have to be electricity. You know? So these would be the three things that I'll be taking to Mars. With that, I bid you goodbye, adieu, sayonara, hasta la vista, see you never again.
Please mark your ballots. Timer, may we have 1 minute of silence, please. Number 6, Tom Trainer. Question number 6. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You are allowed to take up to 3 personal items. What do you take and why? I'll repeat the question. You are leaving for 1 year to live in a colony on Mars. You are allowed to take up to 3 personal things. What do you take and why?
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honored and distinguished guests, viewers at home. This is a good question, and I'm going to opt out, and I'm going to quote a teacher that many of us in this town know about. A long time ago, a friend of mine was with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and someone asked him the same question, except you're going to live on a desert island. What 3 books would you take with you? Books. Things that you would use to keep yourself sane. And he gave the answer. First, the Bhagavad Gita. He said that is the Bible of the Eastern religions. It's the story of life. It's about how you live your life. It's got all kinds of lessons to learn. It's interesting. The second book is the book of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And that is the book that helps you validate your consciousness, helps you understand your consciousness, helps you understand who you are. Third book, the Shiva Sutras, because they're an exact description of how your consciousness grows, how it manifests, and what your experience would be. It details the experience of expanding consciousness. Now, if I was going to Mars and be alone for a year, I definitely would want those 3 books. The Gita, the Sutras of Patanjali, and the Shiva Sutras, so I would know who I really was. Madam Contest Chair.
I'm up for the ballot counters to collect. Be sequestered to count the ballots. I'd like to invite the table topics contestants to come up front for some short interviews now. Please come and stand on the edge. If anyone needs to leave for a moment, now's the time to do it, and then come back. Just come right up. All the table topics folks, come up here.
7.
Steve Harper.
Steve Harper, missing in action.
He's on Mars.
Can't forget about that.
So Steve, let's start with a question for you. Why did you join Toastmasters?
I joined Toastmasters to practice speaking.
Do you have a goal while you're here?
To develop my speaking skills.
That's fine. Very good. That's excellent. That's what we do here.
Yay!
Oh, has Toastmasters held any surprises for you?
A lot of them. One of them was when I won the humorous speech competition. I never thought I was good for winning anything, but I did. So that was one surprise. Besides that, I'm really surprised at being in Fairfield, at such a small town, we have such a professional level of club here, with people coming in on a weekly basis, practicing their speech and helping each other to develop their public speaking skills, and doing everything in a systematic manner. Those things really do surprise me. It's, I would say, right there amongst the top in the world. This is the proof, I guess.
Thank you, Rahul. John, does your style of speaking stand out in a crowd?
Does my style of speaking stand? My style of speaking, when I'm telling jokes and getting people to laugh, I stand out in a crowd because people have said that my laugh is very large, and so that would stand out in a crowd. As far as being any other aspect of speaking that I have, I'm developing here, so that maybe I can broaden that humorous base and maybe dazzle people with my intellect.
Stephanie, you came here from Chicago. Does Golden Toastmasters of Fairfield have something extra to offer you besides what the tinsel town of Chicago did?
I think I get a lot more out of this club in some ways. I mean, I have great friends back in the other club, and they were a great club too. At first I was challenged by the fact that that video camera's on the whole time and that it goes on TV, and at first I felt intimidated by that. But I think actually that's become a benefit in that now I can watch the videos from previous speeches and learn from that and grow from that. So I think in that way this club's really helped me. And I love the fact that there's a lot of people who talk about things that I find interesting, and it's a diverse club and I really enjoy it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Scott, you mentioned your doctorate a couple times in the last few months, and I'm wondering if you've made a connection between your doctorate and Toastmasters in some way. Is it helping to create success for you in your life that you're here?
Apart from the immense pain that it tortures me at, either this place or my doctorate, one of the two, I think it's part of the larger picture that I've been creating. I took Janet's wonderful course the other week, and I've really been thinking more and more about structuring myself to be able to complete this book that's been on my mind for several years. I've got several books, and it keeps coming over and over in my head. And the fact that I have to, like Seth says, to enunciate, see I just did that, Seth says, I need to enunciate and be clarified what I'm actually saying and how I'm saying it helps in terms of how I communicate not only to others, but how I'm communicating to myself, how I'm reflecting back to myself who I need to be.
Very
So
good.
it's not about accomplishing that.
Tom, you have 25 years of experience as a Toastmaster.
Not quite that much.
Not quite that much. Is there anything that you feel our group needs to hear from you tonight?
I say the same things over and over again. You just pay attention to the little details and everything will take care of itself. I was telling Stan a story before the meeting. There's this little girl from West Des Moines called Tanya Lamond, At age 10 in the New Orleans flood, she personally raised $10 million to help the children in New Orleans. She's written a book lately, and a friend of mine, Andy, quoted me, and he calls her his new guru. And what she said was, all you have to do is get the first duck lined up. You don't have to line up all the other ducks, just get the first one, and the first duck will call in the second duck, and the second one brings in the third duck. So it's the same here. Just do one thing, and the next thing will appear. We're done?
No, we're not done yet. Well, I mean,
Take autograph.
okay. The wise one has spoken. It is time for a stretch and bathroom break.
Yay!
With this contest, all the contestants may remain in the room. Earlier, the contestants drew lots to determine their speaking order. The order of the contestants will be: number 1, Scott Terry; number 2, Stephanie Chambers; number 3, Darlene Martin; number 4, Rahul Vats; number 5, Bert Chernowski. For a review of the International Speech Contest, please welcome Chief Judge Jean Symington Craig.
Madam Chair, most welcome guests, any honored dignitaries that we have here in your minds, and fellow Toastmasters. As Chief Judge of this contest, I confirm we have equal judging representation again for this contest as well. The judges, timers, and ballot counters have been briefed and are fully aware of their responsibilities. And in addition, the contestants and the contest Sergeant-at-Arms have met for a briefing regarding the rules and procedures of this contest. Is that true, Sergeant-at-Arms? Great, thank you. I ask the Chief Timer to please review the timing procedure for the contestants and observers and have a final check of the timing lights at this time.
Madam Contest Chair, International Speech Contest Timing Script. Timing will begin with the contestant's first definite verbal or non-verbal communication with the audience. This will usually be the first word uttered by the contestant, but would include any other communication such as sound effects, a staged act by another person, etc. Speech length is 5 to 7 minutes. A contestant will be disqualified for speaking less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds or more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds. The green light will be turned on at 5 minutes. The yellow light will be turned on at 6 minutes. And the red light will be turned on at 7 minutes and remain on until the speech ends. In the event of technical failure of the lights, a contestant is allowed 30 seconds extra overtime before being disqualified. We also have this backup green, yellow, and red cards in case the timing lights fail.
Thank you. As Chief Judge, we have two timers. It's two timers.
Two timers.
Duplicate timers. Thank you very much. They're doing a great job. It's a really important role. As Chief Judge, I remind all in this room, if it's necessary to leave, do so only during the 1-minute judging periods. The Sergeant-at-Arms will allow re-entry during a subsequent 1-minute period. Additionally, there is to be silence during that 1 minute. Please do not disturb the judges' deliberations and marking of their ballots. Again, if you turn on your cell phones or any electronic equipment during the break, please turn them off now. There should be no disturbances during the contest. Also, no pictures taken during the contest, and pictures may be taken later during the interview session. Protests regarding originality or eligibility are limited to the judges and contestants and shall be made to the contest chair or to me as Chief Judge prior to the announcement of the winners. That particularly pertains to this contest. The International Speech Contest, as our contest chair has said, all contestants may remain in the room as the contest proceeds. However, you may choose to remain outside of the room if you like. The sergeant at arms will bring you in at that time when it is your time. Are there any questions? Great, and I'm going to ask people that are not directly speaking to have a seat, okay, or be outside. That's good. Great. Great. Well, thank you, Madam Contest Chair. We are in order. Let the contest begin.
Yo!
Contestant number 1, Scott Terry. Title of speech, Let Go, Holding On, Having Fun. Title of speech, Let Go, Holding On, and Having Fun. Scott Terry.
Sometimes in life, it's important to let go. Sometimes you hold on. And sometimes you just have some fun. Ms. Toastmaster, honored guests, viewers at home, I want you to take one moment and think for yourself what you're willing to let go of, what you're holding on to, and what you're letting yourself, restraining yourself from having the fun at in life that you're willing to have, that you need to have for yourself. Letting go for me meant letting go of the fear exactly 4 years ago tonight, against the one that I'm competing against this very evening, which I'm not sure why she's in the room at the moment, but that's okay. I was getting married. You see, and in my life, getting married means being a client and having a bad relationship, because that is what I've been doing. I've been living for years as a couples counselor. And when do I see happy relationships? Do happy relationships come to couples counseling? This is a huge hurdle for me to get over, apart from the fact that I literally had to decide to get married in a matter of 3 days and had just had oral surgery, double oral surgery on my gums. Yes, those things. Or lose the woman of my life. The one that I love, the one that I've been waiting to be with for 23 years. Since, yes, she left me there in Fairfield. She walked out on me. Well, technically, I left her and went to D.C., but it's a minor point, and I'm sure she would have forgotten by now who left who and what happened. No, not really? Okay, but we'll move on from there. My fear was letting go, who I hadn't become yet. I kept thinking that I need to be somebody, something for my life to begin. After my accident, I'm not sure that I could have become that person anymore, and that I was okay with that. I needed to let go of not knowing where I was going to next. Not knowing the story, this story now. We are finally celebrating our pre-honeymoon and 50th birthday. My 50th birthday, that is. A bit after we got married. I didn't know where I was going. I wanted to leave it all be a mystery. I was in the airport going on this grand adventure, which she, of course, created for me, and I looked ardently at the floor, with everyone dancing around me with dancing shoes, and that's all I could see was their shoes. And I had my headset on, so I couldn't hear a word of what was being broadcast on the speakers, and I had her lead me by the hand, and I walked. And every day for the next week, we drove, and I didn't know where we were going. I let go to the moment, the completion of that mission of freeing myself. And sometimes you hold on, holding on to what's really important, holding on to that love, pure, honest, true. To you, holding on with my right hand in her left hand, with my left hand on the driving wheel, as we drove down the road for days and days. It was beautiful. And you go for a ride wherever and however that ride takes you. It's good, it's really good. It's okay for it to be so good. We drive to Bryce Canyon. And fun, that's right. I look at Jesus when I think of fun. Fun and delight is waking up at the sunrise, magically, utterly enhanced with the sun striking these pillars below, like God had made these mainstays out of Play-Doh with the little rings of gold, golden orange, red flush with the drawing, with the dawning light on it. The dusk in the air, which you could smell and taste like the pancakes soon to be taken in. The mass of stone allowing us to sail out like a myth. We're spinning colors of delight. Something so delicious to consume with my eyes and soon with my touch as I walked around these pillars. After maple syrup and pancakes. You could hear nothing from up on top. As a single pebble would drop down to the ground, leaving this earth above for another earth below. Everything is good. Everything is right. We look out on these columns standing up to greet us like they did the gods. There's a little chipmunk that comes out to greet the sky and us, and maybe he too is a god. I think he is. I, of course, call him Chippy and take a picture of him, right there on his hind legs. That's him over there. And he's reaching out for the light, as we soon would be, in that correction of my possibility that I felt at that moment that I was alive, and that it was okay, and that it was safe for me to have fun again. And so I rise. It was safe and all right. I deserved to be married to her. Yes, her. It was okay to have fun and to be buzzing about alive. I waved goodbye to Chippy, and I looked one more time at the sea of stones as I held her left hand with my right hand over here, and I hold on. As I kiss her fully, as the sun rose to our touch, and I knew it's right, that I was and can be right now. I learned to let go of who I was. I learned to just be and fully be here again. I learned to hold on to what really is important. And it wasn't just her, it was me again. And I learned to have some fun again. Maybe it's all right to have fun again. And so now I come back to you, and I ask you what you have let go of tonight, and what you have been holding on to this evening, and what you can allow yourself to have some fun at. Whitman said, the great Whitman said, I am large. I contain multitudes. Be large. Be large. Every one of us. Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster.
Judges, please mark your ballots. Mr. Tyron, may we have 1 minute of silence, please? Contestant number 2, Stephanie Chambers. Overcoming Judgment. Title of the speech, Overcoming Judgment. Stephanie Chambers.
Have you ever made a judgment about someone? And I'm not talking to the judges here. Or have you ever made a judgment about yourself? Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honoured guests and viewers at home. In the next 7 minutes, I'm going to show you how by not judging others and not judging yourself, you'll be able to relate to people better, and you'll be able to enjoy meeting people and going to parties more. Firstly, talking about judgment, I want to tell you a story. Over 25 years ago, when I was at college, I was walking from one part of campus to another, and I noticed this handsome man walking by my side. Now, he wasn't a total stranger. I knew he was friends with a girl in my class who was from Israel. So I judged that he must also be Israeli. So I asked him, "What's Israel like?" Now, he had been to Israel. That's how he'd become friends with my girlfriend Daphne. So he answered the question. That confirmed my suspicion that he was Israeli. The confusing conversation went on like that. Needless to say, it took us many years to get to know one another. In fact, it took us 20-some years till we actually got married. And we're just celebrating our 4th wedding anniversary tonight. Now, that's a pretty trivial example of how, by judging someone, it can affect the way you relate to them. But if you go into a meeting with someone new, and you've heard something negative about them, or you make a negative judgment about them, it can be much more serious. As it says in the Upanishads, never denounce anyone. The second aspect of judgment is that sometimes you make a judgment about yourself. Have you ever said to yourself, "I'm not smart enough to talk to them. I'm not well read enough to talk to them. I'm not dressed well enough to talk to them." All these sorts of excuses, there are endless excuses we can make about why we can't relate to this person. Generally, they're ludicrous and have no basis. It's a bit like how when you're dealing with a vicious dog, they say you shouldn't let them sense your fear. If you doubt yourself, other people pick up on that and they start to doubt you. So you have to go into meetings feeling confident and just being yourself. I also want to share with you the secret technique, because you might be saying to yourself, "But they could be judging me." Well, they may or may not be judging you. But I'm going to tell you how you can overcome this. Now, I learned this technique many years ago. In Australia, Maharishi Yogi had sent 4 men from the US to try and get more people to learn to meditate. Now, I happened to be at the center at the time when they were making their calls. And I noticed that before they rang these people in high positions in Australia, they did some research about them. And when they called them, they used this research so that they could praise them in a meaningful way. Now, they probably got this technique from Maharishi, and I call it the praise technique. Because when you praise someone, they forget about their judgments. They feel more receptive, and they're more likely to listen to what you have to say. They also tend to develop warmer feelings towards you. So it's a very useful technique. Now, of course, in a party situation, you haven't always researched everyone you meet. So you have to rely on things like you can praise the way they look, or how they're dressed, or the way they behave. But the more you do that, the more you'll find that your confidence will grow and people will respond better to you. So I've now taught you the 3 things you have to think about when relating to other people. So from now on, are you going to judge other people? No. Are you going to judge yourself? No.
No.
And are you going to use the special technique, the praise technique?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I just want to leave you with a quote from John Donne. I think a lot of you probably know this quote, but it's one that's always good to be reminded of. No man is an island, entire of itself. Each is a piece of a continent and part of the main. Thank you.
Judges, please mark it out. Contestant number 3, Darlene Martin. Title of speech, Growing in Relationships. Growing in Relationships. Darlene Martin.
Madam Chairperson, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, and viewers at home. How many of you have ever been in a relationship? Are in a relationship now? That about covers us all. Hi back there. How many of you have ever had your buttons pushed? Someone pushed your buttons. Or maybe you were the one pushing someone else's buttons unknowingly, unconsciously. It happens to all of us. We're human. I'm going to share with you some things I learned in a book study that I recently did. The book is called Love and Awakening by John Wellwood, Discovering the Sacred Path of Intimate Relationship. I highly recommend it. It's very profound, but yet also simple to read. So one of the examples John gives is we come into the world as a child, we're open-handed, we're vulnerable, we have a soft spot. And we relate from that space until we get hurt. And then we flinch. And if we really get hurt, we contract into a fist. And we go around like that until we're able to open back up again. So how do we get to the point of opening back up again when we have the fist? I'm going to share 3 points with you, and then also my own personal story. One is we have to feel the feeling the whole way through. You can't go over it, you can't go under it, you have to feel it the whole way through the process. Number 2, you have to take responsibility for your own feelings. I feel sad, I feel angry. Not you made me angry, you did that to me, but own it yourself. Number 3 is speaking your truth and letting another know the impact that they have on you, because we affect each other. So I'm reading this book, I'm excited. I have this intention now of quickly, when I'm contracted, going back to the place of openness. Well, it's amazing how the universe has given me all these opportunities now to practice this. So last week, I'm at work. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm in sales. It's been a little bit slow. I get a sale, and I'm so excited. I run over to my manager's office. I got a sale! I got a sale! He looks at me for like a minute or two. A second or two, excuse me. Then goes right back to his computer and starts asking me something. I'm like, hello? I started getting really angry inside. I was frustrated. After a minute, I turned on my heel, went back over to my desk. I'm just fuming and so angry. So I feel my anger. What's underneath the anger? Underneath the anger is hurt. What am I hurt from? I'm hurt because I feel deflated. I went over there, I was joyful, I was enthusiastic. I just got squashed. So I let myself feel that for 10 or 15 minutes. Letting myself feel all those feelings of being deflated, feeling squashed. So now do I want to go back and tell the other the impact that they had on me? Do I do it? Don't I do it? Do I do it? Don't I do it? This battle going on inside of my head. I thought, you know, I need to do this for myself, for me. And I also need to do it to let the other know the impact that they had on me. This is my manager. This is a little uncomfortable, but I know I need to do it. So go back to work. Back at his door, he starts saying something. I said, whoa, 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 hold on here a second. I need to say something. I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling frustrated. I just came in here 10 minutes ago to share my enthusiasm with you of I got a sale. I need you to be on my team. I need to feel that you're on my team. Not just go off on something else. I left feeling like I had a bucket of cold water just dumped over me. And I'm stewing over there in my office thinking, I'm sure as hell not going to come back the next time and share what I have to say. He kind of like, okay, well, I'm sorry. I won't bring something else up again at the same time. I said, thank you. I appreciate that. So I go back to my desk, and I'm feeling much more open again. I still have some of the residue. It's not totally gone. I'd say within about 5 minutes, it was pretty much relaxed, and I felt I was back to my open place, my soft spot of being vulnerable again. After about 20 minutes, I get this knock on my door. My manager comes in. He said, you know, I'm really sorry. I hear what you're saying. I hear how that affected you and how that would hurt, and I do want to be excited when you get a sale. I am excited when you get a sale. I was focused on something else. But I do hear what you're saying. That was like the icing on the cake. I was like, whoa! That just really blew me away. So here, I walk over to his office. I'm open-handed. I leave with a clenched fist, feeling angry. Come back. I'm able to feel my feelings. And then still, and own how I felt, that I was feeling angry, and take responsibility for that. And then go back over, maybe not totally all open, but not clenched any longer, and share my truth with him, and then come back over and be open again. Is it easy? No, it wasn't easy. It was scary, but it's worth it. And I'm so glad that I did it. Thank you.
Yo!
Judges, please mark your ballots. Chief Turner, may we have 1 minute of silence? Votes. Title of speech, Swadharm. Title of speech, Swadharm. Toolbox.
Good evening, friends. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. My name is Rahul Vats. I'm here to tell you the simplest way to happiness. It is Swadharma. Bhagavad Gita says, Swadharme nidhanam shreya, which means death in the path of true self-dharma lead to glory, lead to happiness. Now most of you would be thinking, all right, these all sounds good, it looks great, but how do I know what is Swadharma? What is my dharma? There are 3 easy steps of doing that. First, identification of your true self. Identification of your true nature. Second, removing or reducing all the obstacles in your path which hinder you to follow your true nature. Third, one-pointed focus on what you want to do in your life. One-pointed focus through your true nature. I'll tell you a few stories, few short examples, which will help you understand the deeper and a very significant meaning of what I'm talking about here. How would you identify what's your true nature? Well, to answer this question, don't look at me. Just look deep down within yourself and you'll realize. Michael Jordan, he was meant to be a basketball player. He decided that at a very young age, followed his dream like nothing else, reached what he wanted to do, what he wanted to become, by becoming the most successful basketball player according to many in the field of basketball. Sachin Tendulkar, a great Indian cricketer, he said at the age of 32 that the only thing that he has ever known since the age of 5 was how to hold a bat, a cricket bat, nothing else. There must be something within you that only you would know you're good at. Nobody else can tell you. Once you know what's that true nature of yourself, it's very easy for you to follow. When I said it's very easy, it's actually easy in saying than doing. But to make it easy, you relate it to the point 2. Remove and reduce all the obstacles that would hinder you in following what your true nature is. Taking a story back from Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, the source of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was once asked by his guru, his teacher, Guru Dronacharya, at the time of a test which was given to all the princes from Mahabharata. Dronacharya hung a dummy bird, a model of a bird, on a tree and asked everyone, what do they see? All the princes came. They said they see the sky, they see the tree, they see the leaves, they see the bird. Guru Dronacharya didn't let any one of them shoot the bird. Then came Prince Arjun. He asked him the same question. And he said he can only see the bird. When it was asked, why can't he see anything? What why can't he see anything else? He said he had made it in his mind that they don't exist. Obstacles in your path are only when you think that they exist. So what I said first was identification of your true nature. If you know what your true nature is, it would be very easy for you to identify what your obstacles are. And if you can remove and reduce, it would be very easy for you to realize how would you create that one-pointed focus in achieving what your goal was. Talking about that one-pointed focus goal, Arjuna had that one-pointed focus. This can be summed up in one of the articles that I recently read on Facebook. And that article was, a group of university alumni meet at an old professor's house. And very soon their meeting turned into a conversation about how stressful their life is, how stressful their work is, how stressful everything else is. Professor, on hearing that conversation, goes to the kitchen, comes back with a cup with coffee and an assortment of cups, some very expensive ones, crystal, porcelain, very high quality, some cheap plastic ones. When he comes up, he asks them to help themselves to the coffee. Everybody went ahead, took the coffee in all the expensive cups, all the best ones. They were gone right there. Professor then asked them, all of you wanted to drink coffee, but see, the main thing that has been gone are the expensive cups, and what's really left is the cheaper cups. What you truly wanted was not the cups, but the coffee. That coffee is just like your life. You need to understand that in your life, the true and most important thing is what you want to do. Everything else is an expense, is an obstacle. Remove it, get rid of it. You would realize what your sadharma is. With that, I end my speech. Thank you for your content.
Mark your ballots. Timer 5. Bert Chernelsky. Title of speech, The Best Thing. Title of speech, The Best Thing. Help me welcome Bert.
Thank you, Ms. Contest Chair. 100 years ago, a loaf of sliced bread replaced a can of corn as a symbol of entrepreneurship and innovation in America. Toastmasters, judges, special guests, and viewers at home, this is a story about thinking outside the bread box. Without an Iowa entrepreneur, Otto Frederick Rohwedder, you couldn't say, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Otto Rohwedder was a jeweler. He lived in St. Joseph, Missouri, and owned 3 jewelry stores. He came home one day, and he told his wife, I've got a great idea. I think this idea might be the best thing since canned corn. And that idea was a way to commercially slice bread automatically. after a lot of discussion with the family, prayers, his enthusiasm won out. They sold the jewelry business and moved back to his hometown where he grew up, Davenport, Iowa. Crazy idea or brilliant idea? You decide. It took 16 years to get that product to market. Another 5 to turn it into an overnight success. Let's take a look at what happened. Why did it take so long to incubate that product? First thing was, he had a problem with the bakers. They didn't like the idea of sliced bread because they thought the bread would get too dry. Consumers didn't like the product for the same reasons. They thought the bread would get too dry. There was a 7,500-year history of unsliced bread, keep in mind. And the first loaves of bread were held together with hat pins. Later additions were held together with rubber bands. After 5 years, Otto Rohwedder ran out of money. He was at the end of his rope. He had a prototype, but nobody really wanted to buy it. And then tragedy struck. He had a small factory, all his money invested into it. It burned to the ground. His dreams went up in smoke. What would you do? Would you start over or would you give up? He didn't give up. But he also needed to do something different. And that different was, he needed to find something to wrap the bread in, thank you, to keep it fresh. Now keep in mind, plastic bags weren't invented until 40 years later. Thank God for cellophane. It was only 9 years down the road. He needed something to wrap his bread in. So here's what happened. He saved, he waited, he developed his products on his side, he got another job. But cellophane was invented in 1926. 1927, he raised enough money, he saved enough money to build a new prototype. He sold the first one to a bakery in Chillicothe, Missouri. They started marketing sliced bread under the brand name, you'll love this, Sliced Clean Made Bread. Clean was spelled K-L-E-E-N-M-A-I-D, bread. Great product idea, yeah? It had a little bit of traction. 3 years later, the Continental Baking Company caught on to the idea. They started campaigning nationally to get people to adopt sliced bread. You know what the name of that product was? Wonder Bread. Changed people's lives within 3 years. Half the bread sold in America was sliced bread. It became really popular until it was banned in 1943.
What?
Yeah. Communist conspiracy. Not. It was the war. They needed to save austerity. They needed to save every ounce of steel for the war effort. So for 2 years, no sliced bread. Now, hold on a second. Here's a guy who's a jeweler. Why does he have any business being an entrepreneur, getting into the bakery business? Well, he did. Now you're wondering, did he get rich and retire? He was an above average inventor, but a below average entrepreneur. What happened was this. He sold his invention to the Micro Westco company in Bettendorf, Iowa. They made him vice president, sales manager of the Rohwedder Bakery Machine Division. He worked there until he was 71 years old. Now, the cliche of the bread slicer has endured, but the story of the entrepreneur and the great effort to get this to market has been lost. What can we learn from this experience? One is, no one can stop you from inventing. Number two, you don't really need any special qualifications to be an entrepreneur. Three, it takes a lot of work to change consumer behavior. Four, back up your work. And five, persistence takes a lot longer than you think. I hope you'll learn from these lessons. I hope you'll embrace this story and apply it to your entrepreneurial dreams so that you can say, I'm going to create the best thing since sliced bread. Thank you very much.
We have 1 minute of silence. Keep your ballots and hold them up for the ballot counters to collect. Now we'll have an interview with the contestants. I'd like to have all the international speech contestants please return to the front of the line. Rahul, I'd like to ask you if you would do an expression for us showing emotion in your voice by repeating a random phrase like milk and cookies. Can you give us several different emotions?
All right, try my best. Not particularly good with emotions, but let's see. Milk and cookies. I don't know what kind of an expression was that, but it looks sad to me.
How about if you're mad?
If I'm mad, damn, I want milk and cookies! Does that look mad enough? Okay.
How about if you're shyly asking? That's very good. Good. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you.
Bert, do you have a favorite Toastmaster role that you like to play when we do our meeting?
What I like to say is I was happy to go last. Why? Because I was inspired by all of these people. I love to evaluate. To me, that's probably one of the best roles, and to me, it was like such a treat to hear the richness, not only of the sound of their voices, but the quality of the material that they presented tonight. Thank you very much.
Darlene, are you a goal-oriented person? Do you have your goals set for this year and some planned for next year with Toastmasters? And if so, what are they?
It depends what the environment is. I can be very goal-oriented. I have not been particularly goal-oriented in Toastmasters. What my goal would be for this year is to complete my 10 speeches. That would be my goal.
Very good. Stephanie, if you were going to create a party about Toastmasters, what would you use as the subject?
Well, I think if I was creating a party, this is the way I normally create my mystery parties, is I think of the characters first. So, of course, I immediately thought of Tom and his laugh. And, you know, we have some characters, like Seth. And there's a number of characters. I think we're all characters in our own way. And there'd be some magic, because Jesus would be in it as well. So I'd probably put them all together and see how they relate to one another and what they'd come up with. And I'd probably find some plots as to people wanting to be better speakers than the other one. Or, I don't know, there's not really much underhandedness that goes on here. But, you know, I'd weave it all together and see what pops up.
Scott, could you give us an example of the 4 P's that were taught as tips? Pronouncing words correctly, pitch, pace, and pauses. You can pick any one of those things to talk about and demonstrate for us, please.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Very good.
And so I think of the pause right there. I want to thank Bert. What a lovely comment, and I really feel the same. Every speech I've heard was more magnificent than I thought and I kept thinking of my mistakes, and I kept thinking, wow, how great each one of you were, and I was so impressed. I'm really impressed being here, just more and more. And I'm really wanting to thank you. Your presence really presents us as well.
Thank you.
Is that a good enough pause?
That's awesome. Raul, I'd like to go back to you again and ask you why you joined Toastmasters in the first place.
I have answered this question so many times now, I have to remember what my answers were before. but I think I've always shared the same thought. I haven't joined Toastmasters really for public speaking, because unlike most of the people over here who felt that they were scared while speaking, I never was shy or scared when I was giving a speech. But what I felt I didn't have was routine, practice, organization, and management. And that was the reason I felt I should join a club where it's done in a routine manner with a system in place to guarantee you to improve your skills. And, you know, it did work out that way, so I've been a member for nearly 2 years now.
Thank you, Raul. Bert, I'd like to ask you something that has to do with your career in filmmaking and documentary films. Has Toastmasters helped you somehow in your work?
Yes. Toastmasters has brought out probably a better storyteller in me. And in terms of really looking at an opportunity, I don't necessarily go into making a movie with the story in mind. I find the story when making a movie, and that's pretty much true with documentary filmmakers. I will tell you, as a segue, in preparing for tonight, the camaraderie, there was certain people or voices that influenced me when I was preparing. I thought of Seth, and I thought, I'm probably competing against Seth at some point. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was like, I know he's going to have his material down 3 or 4 days ahead of time, really rehearse that probably 25, 30 times. I can't do that. I don't have the time to do that, but I tried. And that was really good. And Dan sitting in the back of the room, I'm thinking, will Dan think this is funny? Will he get the cleverness? And I'm thinking, and will Gene think this is organized and to the point where it's wrapped up correctly? So I'm listening to all these voices inside me as I'm doing this. And to me, not only in terms of filmmaking, but in terms of speaking, I've been enriched by the people in the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darlene, have you had the opportunity to meet with any other club members or go to another club meeting in another area?
I have not gone to a club in another meeting, but I've met different members that have come to our club. So that is, it's a little difficult with my schedule to like go. I know there's offerings to do that, but with my schedule, it's a little bit difficult to do that.
Thank
So
you.
no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's give him a big hand. Chief Judge, do you have the results of the international ballot?
Excuse us 1 minute.
The results of the table topics and international speech contests have been given to me. Second place is very important. If for any reason the first place winner cannot compete in the speech contest on March 23rd, or here in this room on Saturday, the second place winner can compete in their place. First, we'll have the results of the table topics contest. Second place winner, table topics contest, is Scott Terry. First place winner, table topics, is Rahul Watts. Winners of the International Speech Contest. Second place, International Speech Contest, is Bert Chernowski. First place International Speech Contest is Darlene Martin.
I have to thank Jean and Seth because I had no intention of joining this. I offered to be a judge, and they said, "Oh, you should compete." So thank you, Seth.
Thank you, everyone, for making today a success. I first want to thank the contestants for giving a great effort today. Catherine Kens, please stand, and Karen Aoki, our ballot counter. Satish Kumar our chief timer, Slobodan Denizliski. Our assistant timer, Casey Tolk. Our chief judge, Jean Symington Craig. Now our judges, Dan Craig, second place winners, please meet with me for a short period of time to fill out some paperwork after the contest. Jean?
And of course, this would not have been at all the smooth and effortless procedure that it was without the efforts, tireless efforts of our contest chair, Rhonda Whitaker.
Spring contest here on March 23rd, a week from this Saturday. We are adjourned.
9 a.m. 9 a.m.
9 a.m. here, it'll be about 2 hours.